Good morning, folks. It is 11:03 a.m. It is May 26th of 2023. We've got 46 participants on this morning, and this is Coffee with Community Services, our weekly vendor meeting at Alta California Regional Center. As you would have seen when you logged on, these meetings are recorded, and we save the recordings of these meetings onto Alta's website. And we certainly hear from you if we do not have the recordings up there for those of you that missed the meetings. So trying to get those in as quickly as we can. Real quickly, then we do some introductions of folks, and then I will jump over to our agenda for today. So I see our HCDS specialist, Alicia's on this morning. Good morning, Alicia. And from Community Services, I see Bobby and Christy on, and our QA specialist, Scott, is on, and manager Helen. Good morning, Helen. And I see also from Community Services, Beverly is on. Good morning, Beverly and Shirley. And manager of our Specialized Services and Support Units, Jordan, is on here this morning as well. Good morning, Jordan. Miss Isabella Vega. Good morning, Isabella. Another Community Services Specialist that I know works with a number of you. And Cindy Lay, our Client Services Manager. Good morning, Cindy. Let's see here. I see Danny from Community Services. Good morning, Danny and Adriana. And our lead Community Services Specialist, Jason, is on. And Client Services Manager, Laura Gorham's on this morning. Good morning, Laura. And Michelle Duchesne. I see Dana's on. Good morning, Dana. All right. And we see some service coordinators on. I think that cubicle looks familiar, Ureli. So I see her right there. And I see Jessica. And let's see who else. You can wave to me if you're a service coordinator. And I see our Director of Client Services, Jennifer Bloom, that is on this morning as well. So good morning, folks. We are going to be discussing some broad strokes information related to the last part of the rate study implementation. We had an opportunity at the Regional Center to receive some presentations from DDS, and though all that information I don't believe is ready to go onto DDS's website, we do want to give you a heads up about what to expect next year for the remainder of the rate study implementation. Discuss briefly about some HCBS stuff related to the rate study, talk about the State Council on Developmental Disabilities Housing Forum that I got to participate in, share a little bit about that, talk about rollover. Michelle's going to give an update on our ride share program that we've been implementing at the Regional Center. We had our board meeting, so talk a little bit about the dashboard indicators that came out. And let's see. And I've got a little information on the DDS most recent performance measures, but we'll probably not get too deep into that one. That was on person-centered planning. Maybe I'll just share the PowerPoint on that. As always, you're welcome to put information in the chat if you have any questions or anything as well. And then I'll give it, you know what, I'll do another quick, I know Carly's out doing site visits, I think today over at Easter Seals, if I remember correctly. But I will give an update on the Sierra College TIL program that we are doing, the Transition to Independent Living, and just briefly on the employment grant that we are doing with Sierra College as well, and little updates on that. Good morning. I see my assistant Zach is on as well. Good morning, Zach. All right. So let's see. Actually, I'm Michelle. I like to throw things around the order here. So why don't I have you start off with kind of talking about, for those that may have not have been present previously, kind of what are we doing with rideshare, and then what have we heard so far?
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, so if it's okay, I was going to share the document. So we have had some interest in our rideshare reimbursing our 024. And right now that is for day programs, work programs, respite, and SLS. So just keep in mind, I know you guys all received an email that it is, based on individual need and it's client specific. So the first step of that is to have a planning team and really discuss with the planning team what's appropriate. So let me share the two documents that you will receive from from case management, because we're getting those at CSS, and that's really for case management and that support. So let me share the first one. Let me see, it's a little slow. Am I not able to share, John? I don't know if maybe I have access to it because it's not giving me access.
I think you're good.
Okay, let me try one more time. It's not, let me,
You're a co-host now.
it's not even giving me the options.
Well, Boo, you don't get to share the screen then.
I
Sorry.
know, I don't know. So we can always, I can provide these again to you guys via email if you want. But for there's a client acknowledgement. So with that, it's just letting them know that, that they're acknowledging that they want to utilize this service, and there's a check boxes for what they're utilizing the service for. So day program site, employment, a volunteer site, educational facility, or like a social rec. And there's some other ones, there's other spots too that you can put in there. So the client acknowledgement is one of the first pieces. The second piece is our vendor certification. So it's just letting them, that you guys will actually, as the vendor, provide that to the case management, saying this client is, needs this service and this is why, and really laying that out in a narrative format. So those two pieces are the case management pieces. When it comes to adding the 024 to your rate table, it's a very simple process. We just need an application, an HCBS, and we also have a program design addendum that we have drafted up, very similar to TDS. So it's all in there for you. You just have to acknowledge that and sign that. So once we get that that documentation, we will also give you a template for the invoice template that you will provide to your service coordinator for that particular client for that month. So if you guys are interested in adding that service, please reach out to your specialist. It's not specialized for transportation specialist. Whoever you're assigned, reach out to them and let them know that you'd like to add the 024 rideshare. If you don't know who that is, I can put my name in the chat, and you guys can always reach out to me and I can connect you as well. It's been successful so far. We've had quite a lot of programs take advantage of this and utilize it. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'll put that in there, or if anyone has anything at this time. Any other questions?
All right. Any questions for Michelle about this? No. All right.
Hi, John. I have a question.
Oh, yes, please go ahead.
Hi, can you clarify education programs?
Sorry, say that again. Clarify
Education programs that can utilize this service. Do they have to be vended with the regional center?
No, no one can do it other than just those vendor groups that Michelle mentioned.
So day program.
Were you referring to use the rideshare to get to an education, like a school or a junior college or something like that?
I'm sorry, maybe I misheard, but I thought I heard day program, employment, education, and SLS.
It's respite. It's day program, work program, respite, and SLS. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Yes, of course.
Thank you very much for that. Now I'm going to surprise Jennifer Bloom like I like to do. Jennifer, is our public comment period still open for the AB 637?
I'm always ready for you, John. Yes, it is. Our public comment closes on Monday, the 29th. And this, for those who may not be aware, we held a public meeting on May 15th for a 637 proposal. We are requesting to waive the median rates for our vendored occupational therapists, speech therapists, and physical therapists for the children and families of Early Start. And we held the public meeting, and part of that requirement is that we have a public comment period, which closes on May 29th. So if anyone has anything to share in support, or even if you're not in support, that's public comment. So we'll take it all. And you could email that to me directly. And this again is to waive the median rates for Early Start therapies so that we can do a better job at meeting our timelines and the influx of children coming into Early Start each month. It's between 350 to 400 consistently. So we definitely have a need and appreciate your public comment. Thanks, John.
Jennifer, I know you were able to give, when we did the public meeting, a little bit more context. And unfortunately, we don't get as much involvement with our Early Start vendors in these meetings than we do like when we had them specifically there. You talked about the influx of people that are coming into or kids that are coming in. Can you give us is that a normal number? Is 350 like something that, is that a lot for us? Is that different than the volume that we've dealt with in the past?
It feels normal over the last year or 2 years. So calendar year 2022, I think we had around 365 children per month consistently, and we're on trend to meet or exceed that this year. So you're asking if this is normal? No. Well, it is now, but it wasn't before. So of course, during the pandemic, our intake slowed down. And prior to the pandemic, maybe 2018, 2019, we still had a couple hundred a month, but not at this pace and not so consistently. There's a lot of reasons for that. I think children were home with their families during the pandemic, and maybe they weren't around other children and didn't really know what was typical, if you will, or not. And they weren't maybe seeing their doctors as often or weren't playing at the park. And so now this has come to light that their child might have a delay. And additionally, the eligibility criteria for early start has changed. So a child used to need to have a 33% delay in order to qualify, and now it's 25%. So you can imagine that, just that percentage really opens the door for more children to potentially be served through the Early Start program.
Excellent. And certainly as our provider community struggles to keep up with that, right? I mean, we have not been able to meet that need. It's always been a challenge to be able to meet that need for the services. And I remember 12 years ago working on EI services with Helen, and remember some of the challenges that we had, getting kids served, and certainly does not make it easier as we've had job market challenges as it relates to those service providers. So I'm really hoping that we, again, get a approval from the Department of Developmental Services on this once we send it in, and can really, if there's any way that we can mirror some of the success that we've been able to have with the intake psychologists and getting all of those extra slots that have opened up for our clients after doing that 637, I mean, it would be amazing if we could see that same type of progress here and even more. And we don't want to do 637s for everything at our regional center, but when we recognize that there's this huge, disparity that exists between what services are needed and what we have that's available for our clients, and just how vital that is to get those services as quickly as possible for that age group too, right?
Yes, so, absolutely.
I will say Jennifer has really taken on huge efforts on the service provider side of things as it relates to EI. And I just want to acknowledge that. And I really appreciate all that you are doing. We could get into more of it. We've certainly talked about it here in this meeting, but this is going to have to continue to be a huge area where our regional center puts a lot of resources in making sure that we've got the young ones served like this. So thank you very much, Jennifer.
John. Thanks to you and your team as well. We are a team.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, now we have another one of these that is coming up as well, right? And I see Jordan perked right up when I said that. And I know Helen and Jordan. And what I'm going to do real quickly is I'm going to share my screen with the AB 637 public meeting notice for May 31st. And I wonder if, you guys are both welcome to unmute yourselves. And if you want to guide us through kind of what we're looking at here, that would be great.
Absolutely.
So let me just share my screen. Let's see. Jordan, can I get a thumbs up if you are seeing? Yeah, right on.
Thumbs up,
so this is on our website, AB 637. You can access this through our events calendar, and it has information right here. So why are we doing this?
We are doing this so that we can request to waive regulation.
One moment, please. Need to mute someone. Continue.
Okay, sorry. We are doing this in order to request that DDS waive some of the Title 17 and Welfare and Institution Code regulations for CBAM's contract, right? CBAM currently has a contract rate, and we're looking at requesting that they be switched to a monthly median rate for their crisis service. So that is something we would have to get approval from DDS to be able to waive Welfare and Institution Code 4691.9. CBAM has also experienced some drastic staffing barriers beginning in 2019 through the pandemic, right? That have really created a pretty significant wait list for our clients needing to access crisis services and requiring even their higher executive management staff, right, to have to carry caseloads of clients as well. So looking at getting approval from DDS so we can switch them from a contract rate to a monthly median rate.
Awesome. So we're going to do our public meeting. It's going to be Jordan's
Yeah.
going to say all that same stuff all over again.
We'll have a pretty PowerPoint for you that Helen's created for us.
That's right. No, this is a good opportunity for you to be able to practice a little bit and let folks know kind of what we're doing here. I see, look at Michelle Ramirez is right there on here as well. There she's waving. So, you know, CBEM we've had now for 15 years, I think, at our regional center, and it had expanded and it contracted. We still feel like it really plays an important role now and in the future with our regional center. We need to be in a position where we are offering a wide range of different types of options, especially when we're dealing with individuals that require the type of critical interventions that are done by CBEM. So, and I think we're going to invite CBEM staff to be with us during the public meeting as well. And I think that'll be great. Again, you know, this was a service that was used extremely widely across our regional center back when we really had no crisis services that we were also vendoring, right? We had the Telecare ACT program that also went away about, 12 years ago or 11 years ago. And then CBEM was really it. And since then, we've certainly built up other types of crisis services, and we have our START model services through Turning Point. But again, I feel very strongly that CBEM plays an important role moving forward with our agency. And so that's why we've been working on this for a long time, trying to figure out a way to get the CBEM rates fixed so that CBEM rates look similar at Alta as they do at all the other regional centers. It's really tough when you ask a vendor to do your business one way with one regional center and very different with others as far as how you develop your rates and get paid. And I know there's a lot of statewide discussion about that right now, about some of those challenges that vendors meet. But anyways, just wanted to make sure folks are aware of that and definitely recognize the importance that we feel CBEM plays moving forward with our agency and the supports for our clients. So Jordan or Helen, anything else about that one?
No, but next Wednesday when we present it, we will have a Spanish interpreter and a Spanish translator and ASL interpreter. So we're just, and my information is on our website for any public comment. I've already actually got a couple of comments from the public in support of us trying to get this AB 637 approved. So for now, I think that's good.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And then Christy is going to be, is that right? Christy's inheriting CBEM at that point?
Yes, Ms. Christy Schaefer is newly assigned to CBEM. And so, yes, she will also be at the presentation.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. Thank you guys very much for doing that, especially since I did not tell you beforehand that I was going to ask you to do it. Like usual. All right. And so let's move that there. Okay. So other things that we want to touch on. So we talked about rideshare. Let's see. We talked about, let me give a little update on the Sierra College activities, the things that are happening. So if you looked at our last newsletter, and hopefully everyone is receiving our newsletter, you would see that there was a big focus on employment. There was lots of client profiles that Carly was able to pull together for us so we could look at all of the different ways that people are, getting their, whether it's pre-employment or competitive integrative employment. And one of the things that we talked about there as well is that we have a couple activities going on with Sierra College. We have one activity, which is we are looking at replicating the Taft College Transition to Independent Living program. So the Taft College, we've sent clients down there over the years. Usually I will say, I don't know that we've ever really had more than one or two clients at a time down there at the Taft College program, but and it is a little far away for our folks. The president that was at Taft College is now up at Sierra College, and Phil Bonet for a number of years really wanted to try to get a partnership with Sierra College, and Lori has a great relationship with Lou Vismara, and Lou has got a great relationship with Sierra College, and so we were able to come together to both look at doing a TIL program at Sierra College, but also looking at doing an employment grant with them too. So I'll start with the Transition to Independent Living program. time frame wise, and first the first cohort for that program will have 12 individuals in it. There is already statewide a lot of people that have heard about this and are already contacting Sierra College wanting to be the first ones. The first 12 for the cohort that are going to go there are going to be Alta California Regional Center clients. Their vendorization will be completed in advance for the program. They will have both an independent living vendorization and right now, what we're calling a 063 community activities support services program. There we go. Shirley's nodding like I kind of know what the description sounds like. And so those will be the two vendorizations that we are going to be putting into place there. But as I will talk about in a little bit, some of our service codes are going to be changing and maybe not necessarily going away, but you may not want to stay in them. And so we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But for the Transition Independent Living Program, all referrals will come through the regional center. We're working right now with Sierra College on what their entrance and exit criteria. We want to really make sure that we are able to really be representative of our community when it looks at the individuals that have this type of opportunity. And I love the way they described it in the meeting yesterday, where it's like the UCs work with the first 5%, like the top 5% of students, end up in UCs. The top 10%, 15% might go to the state schools, the CSUs, but 100% get to go into the junior college, community college system. And so they have to serve everyone through that system. And that kind of, in looking at that, they want to make sure that they're very equitable in how we work on individuals that are chosen to be part of that cohort. So they're working really closely with us. I will say I found with Garrett's help yesterday, we were talking about finding a client that could help be on the advisory group for both our employment grant, and we'll probably be doing it for the Transition to Independent Living program. And so I talked to Jackie Armstrong, who's on our board, and she is very interested in being a person that is part of our advisory group. So we were very happy. We're going to try to pull 2 more clients to have as part of the advisory committee for these activities. We also have the employment grant at Sierra College. And really what that's looking like is that pipeline basically from special education over to the junior colleges and to the community colleges. And we met with them yesterday and we kind of got really, it was a little frustrating hearing it, because it's kind of like some kids get to be able to go on tours and go check out, what the college looks like, and some don't. And it's all based on what kind of supports that they're getting from their different districts. And some might be able to, and some don't. And some have more of a connection and others don't. And I think what more than anything, we're really trying to work with Sierra College to figure out what does that early identification look like? How can we encourage individuals to go through the path of a junior college program to move towards their employment. So very excited about the work with Sierra College. The first cohort for the Transition to Independent Living program is going to be starting in January. And so we believe that we are on track to get all of the vendorizations done in time. Sierra College has already hired their program manager for the TIL program, which is like a couple months earlier than I hoped that they would get it hired, but it'll be great because they'll help us finish up the design of that program as well. Again, you can find a little bit more about this on, if you go to our last newsletter, there's an article, and then both Sierra College and Alta are going to look at putting something on our websites that describe this partnership that we are doing as well. We know that the Transition to Independent Living program, once it becomes, after that first cohort goes through, there's likely going to be, quite a bit of people throughout the state of California that are going to be looking at that vendorization. We'll also share, because this happened in the last week, that the vendorizations are done for UC Davis for the Redwood Seed Program. I know because we sent out information about that. That's also been quite a process. Cindy had to start working on that one pretty hard in the beginning, and then we transitioned it and tried to figure out what it's going to look like, and Phil, got some good guidance from DDS as it relates to it. So that is also a service that has now been vendored, and we got to make sure that we get notifications out to folks about exactly what's kind of included in those vendorizations. We can, I'll touch bases with Carly about that, because Michelle, I don't believe that we have anything written up about that one being vendored yet.
No, not at this time,
Okay.
but we can definitely do that.
All right. So that's Sierra College. Just mentioning to folks that rollover is happening. Rollover is going on. We're extending purchases. Some of you that have been with us, well, most of you have been with us for at least a year, you might be familiar that during that first week in July, the authorizations may or may not be gotten into place in time. Sometimes it takes a few days, especially based on whatever day of the week when we kick over to the new fiscal year. So if there's any big issues, we will reach out to the accounting department, or excuse me, the accounting department will send out widely to the service providers, and we'll update everyone on June 30th, because June 30th is going to be our last Coffee with Community Services for the fiscal year. So we'll let you know on June 30th what the status of rollover is and how quickly we think all of the authorizations are going to pop up. All right. So I had mentioned that I was going to share a little bit about the rate study and talk about kind of some broad strokes information that we've learned about the rate study. And with that, I am going to share my screen real quickly. And when I share my screen, everyone should be seeing, well, it says rate study implementation. Does that look about right? Beverly, is that good? All right, awesome. And so on rate study implementation, on the first page, you can scroll down, and DDS has kept the rate study implementation stuff here for about the last year. And one thing that we just want to make sure folks are aware of is the rate implementation timeline, which talks about the last rate study changes to the rates that are going to be implemented on July 1st of 2024. So some of the things that we have learned and talked about over the last few weeks, and we've received some presentations from DDS, and just to give folks a heads up, is that the plan is, and this isn't anything new, we've kind of heard about it, but it's just kind of reframing it or refocusing on it, is that the rates are to be standardized by July 1st of 2024. So some of you might remember we had some discussions about 8 months ago. The supported living vendors were very concerned about the fact that Alto was going to look at standardizing all the rates effective January 1 of 2023. We were going to do all of that, and we certainly didn't do anything. We didn't modify anyone's rates or anything as it related to supported living. But what I will say is that the rates will be standardized by July 1 of 2024. So whatever process needs to occur between now and then with the department, it all has to be done by then. So, what we had heard initially was that there was going to be some stakeholder discussions with people about the standardizing of rates. And I just don't know how that works into DDS's time frame, because there is so many different service codes where we are going to have to standardize things. Additionally, we've learned that there's some service codes, ones that we know we didn't see in the rate study, that are going to be, in essence, kind of going away. And so when I say they're going away, it appears that there's going to be opportunities to recharacterize a number of service providers. So, for example, under service code 055, there's a lot of community-based day programs that offer supports to individuals, and there will be an opportunity to move those to different service codes. Where there will also be, for example, for people that work with children's services, service code 048. So the EIBT, or Early Autism Treatment Programs. That's another one where they've given us basically kind of a roadmap that says, here's what the service code is currently. It includes all these different types of activities, tutor time, behavior management consultant time, etc. Here is the new rates that you can utilize for this service. And if you utilize those new rates, then you're going to be part of ongoing, in essence, rate increases that go on. What it appears to be is that if we keep those rates with the old service codes, then when there's new rate increases, they will not be applied to those. And we've already learned that, because we know that there's some service codes that were already left out of the rate study calculations, like service code 102, our parent and individual training service providers. And so now Jordan has been frantically trying to figure out what other service codes can we stick some of these vendors under, so that their ongoing training activities that they can be providing are aligned with one of the rate study categories. I say all of this because there is going to be a tremendous amount of work that is going to be required of the Community Services Department over the next year for us to evaluate all those existing rates and vendors and move their rates over to the new service codes possibly, or to be communicating with vendors about what they do want to do with, their rates. And we also know that there's still a hold harmless that is in place until 2026 as well for vendors. And so, again, more of this is going to come into focus. The presentations that I know Robin LeMay from accounting has attended, that Michelle Duchesne has attended, certainly the presentation that I got from DDS was not quite ready for a live presentation to all of the service providers yet, because there's still some question marks about different things. But I do believe that this is going to come together more solidly after this budget season. So, month of July rolls around, the month of August rolls around. We should really have a good idea about kind of where we're going with this. There's a question in the chat, and I want to bring it up right now because I discussed it with Johnny and with the rest of the ADs and with Jennifer this morning about transportation. So one thing that people are starting to hear about, and I talked about it at length last week, I talked with folks about the budget, right? I talked about the May revision to the budget, how they want to, look what came out in January, and they want to revise it with new projections. And then they also have trailer bill language. So you can go back to last week's meeting and you can see how we went over all of that stuff. We talked about certainly the ILS rate fix and the discussion about that, but there was no money moved around at all to fix the transportation rates. There was nothing that was put in there specifically related to transportation. And so with that, I would just say we are already in a very challenging place as a regional center as it relates to transportation. If we're okaying using Uber and Lyft for people, trust me, like we are in pretty dire straits when it comes to getting routes set up. And the more I talk to people about it, I don't know the likelihood of us getting back to where we were before while we still have so few opportunities for 5-day-a-week day programming in person. Like while we still have so many partial day, 1 and 2 day things, I don't see how we can go back to the way it was previously with the routes. And right now, as you might have seen in the chat with Tony's question there is no provision for things like longer transportation trips like that. We know that there are people that need to get places that don't always live the closest to where they need to get. And the way the rates have been developed is that there is no multiplier for the distance that people go. And so that really impacts a regional center like ours, where you could have really large distances that you need to travel to possibly transport someone into a program. And so, as we will continue to update you as service providers as soon as we hear anything different as it relates to transportation. But as of right now, it is one of the rates, just like I know that they're also still looking at the infant development program rates as well at DDS for this upcoming fiscal year as far as fixing some of them. So wish I had, I guess, better news as far as the transportation side of things. But for right now, we're really hoping that we can get people connected with, the transportation providers that we have that are accepting those types of new referrals. We have, we have 4 people that are processing transportation requests now in the department. And then Zach's also been helping out for quite some time too with our transportation department for like the last year plus. And so, again, it's, the growth that you kind of heard Jennifer talking about goes all along the agency. And so, the transportation resources certainly contracted with COVID, and rebuilding it statewide has been a huge issue for regional centers. All right. Regarding, let's see. One thing that did come out as well that, and I mentioned just briefly about HCBS, is that there's still continued discussions that they are going to be updating Title 17 and Title 22 as it relates to HCBS requirements. Certainly Alicia has, learned that there's not a ton of teeth and not a ton of consistency that exist with HCBS guidelines and with what currently exists in the California Code of Regulations. And there's been discussions for at least 6 or 7 years about them being updated. And so since everything's going into place, now is the time. With that, one thing we also know is that we as regional centers are going to need to verify compliance with HCBS by the end of June of 2024. And, we all have seen how amazingly Alicia can get things organized and can get all of our staff activated to work and do these HCBS compliance things. Unfortunately, as she kind of updated it, a few weeks ago, there's still no update per se directly from the department about what their expectations will be from the regional center as it relates to this next round of reviews for HCBS. So what we do know is that they feel like it's going to be so intensive that they have requested the authority to hire 50 more HCBS specialists for regional centers throughout the state. We are the 4th largest regional center, so my thoughts would be probably 2 or more individuals, at least 2 would be added onto our HCBS kind of compliance area, but we are still waiting for more information from the department about that. So stay tuned, folks. I know we've kind of put a little pause on things at our regional center as far as us internally creating new documents to look at HCBS regulations in order to see if we're going to get anything consistently that is going to come out from DDS about it statewide. So I don't think there's any much more about that, but stay tuned. You're going to definitely receive more information from us in the upcoming fiscal year as it relates to what that HCBS monitoring is going to look like. All right, real quickly, I had an opportunity to go over to the State Council on Developmental Disabilities. Let's see, I did a housing forum with them on Wednesday night or Tuesday night, something like that. And we had about 35 folks that logged in, lots of family members. This was put on by Ann de Medeiros and Peter Mendoza from State Council on Developmental Disabilities. And I really am enjoying this working relationship that I'm starting to develop with both of them. It was tough to replace kind of the last folks that we had at State Council. And so I appreciate that they are doing a lot of community forums, and we're going to support their forums by either having our staff participate or definitely us advertising for their forums. They did a social rec forum and we weren't really involved in that one. I don't think we even got the data that was received, but for the housing one, they involved us right in the very beginning. And so we had an opportunity to see all the survey results that came back. There was about 75 individuals that did surveys, and also got to kind of review that, the updated housing activities at Alta. And so we're going to put this PowerPoint here on Alta's website so you can take a look at it. It provides an update to a few of the things that we're working on, some of our housing projects, things that are moving a little bit further along. There's a local town hall that we did in Woodland, in Davis back in April, talking about a lot of these types of issues. So we are going to post this on our website under the housing section. And if you want to take a look there, you can see some of the updated housing information from Alta. With that, we're still waiting to hear from the department about our project up in Lake of the Pines, the multifamily housing project there. But we did get the approval from our board of directors last night for the contract for the Woodland Phase 2 project. So that's the units there right near our office in Woodland. Very happy about that one getting approved. We did, before I move on too much, let's see, I saw Johnny pop in here real quickly. Johnny, I wonder if you could say a few words about in-person consultation and the message that, even though we don't always have a ton of residential providers here, it's good for everyone to hear it. So I will throw it to you, and let me spotlight you real quick here.
All right. Yes, certainly. Thank you, John. So this morning we went ahead and sent out a message to all the residential service providers as it relates to in-person consultation hours. And so during the pandemic, we did authorize, obviously, those consultation hours to be provided, virtually, if that's still going to be able to meet the client's needs. And so, as you guys are all aware, the pandemic, state of emergency related to COVID has ended. So with that, we need to revisit how we serve our clients through those consultation hours. And so effective June 1st, we want to make sure that it's clear that the expectation is that those hours, consultation hours, are provided in person to our clients. And so unless otherwise approved by ACRC, the expectation is that you provide those hours through your consultants in person. If there's any questions as it relates to that, certainly loop back to the liaison as well as the CSS specialist for that particular home.
All right. Any questions for Johnny on that one? Nope. All right. Thank you very much, Johnny. Okay. Let's see here. Yes, I wanted to touch bases. We had our board meeting last night, as I mentioned. We got the approval for the Woodland Housing Project. We had a statement from Michelle Ramirez from On My Own. She talked about the PAC update, and she noted that there was an appreciation for the health and safety waiver presentation that was done by Jordan and Norma. And you guys are planning on doing that here, right? Did we set the date yet? Is that the one that's on June 30th?
We are going to be doing it on June 30th. Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Awesome. So this would be a great opportunity for the rest of the service providers that were not at the Provider Advisory Committee to learn a little bit more about health and safety waivers. I know we're certainly educating folks about 637 requests because we talk about those public meetings and things like that, but it is important for folks to understand how we are utilizing health and safety waivers in 2023, kind of how long it takes. And I will just say, Jordan's team are absolutely to be complimented for how quickly and how efficiently they can get these health and safety waivers done. You guys certainly, I will say, stand out amongst the folks in the state when it comes to being able to get these things done, quickly. And certainly helps having our former staff over there at DDS processing these. Definitely. But meanwhile, the communication and the activities by Norma and before that, Dan, have been awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. Yeah, Norma and Dan have worked really hard, and we do have great collaboration with our DDS partners that, Andy Perez, that processes these. So that's fantastic. With
the board meeting yesterday, I also wanted to share that we did some updates to the dashboard indicators. And I think what I will do, because I don't know that everyone really gets to see these outside of our board meetings, but maybe we can talk about them here because we release them. I think we do them quarterly. Yeah, we do the quarterly dashboard indicators. So I will put it on my agenda to actually share my screen and go over these a little bit with you after we do them at our board meetings. But what I wanted to point out is that we are now tracking some of our expenditures a little bit differently as a regional center. And we are now tracking things like social recreation purchases, which was not something that we were tracking previously. And so I would just want to put out there that noted that our expenditures for social recreation were $115,787. And many, especially for the service coordinators that are on here, many of you recognize that these purchases are sometimes very small purchases, and they add up. It could be $200 or $50 or $150 for something. So that also represents a whole lot of vendorizations that are being processed, and our service coordinators have really stepped up to save us in this process, because initially we thought that we could process all of these reimbursements through the community services department, and looking at the volume of requests that are out there for social recreation, we had to pivot and have the service coordinators take on a lot more responsibility in gathering the documents. And so I would just say shout out to our service coordinators that got to add just one more additional duty onto their plates, which there's so many things that our service coordinators are responsible for. And it really has meant, though, that people are getting their payments processed so much faster. And Michelle, can you give us, Michelle Duchesne, would you mind just giving us a little kind of time frame? About how long is it taking for us to process things nowadays? Oh, you seem to be muted.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So our SCs are getting us the documents that are required, and our specialists here are able to process within 2 to 5 days. And then it moves over to accounting, which takes an additional probably 5 days. So right now our processing time is about 15 to 20 days total. So that includes the CSS vendorization, transferring through our vendor processors, and then also accounting so that service coordinator can write the purchase.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. And I know, Michelle was very involved in that process of trying to, and her staff as well, and trying to ensure that we can get these things processed quickly. Nothing's worse than submitting, receipts and things like that to get paid, and then waiting for months and months and months for it to happen. And that was really what the situation was with just the crush of the requests that we were receiving at the regional center. And this process has really made it a lot faster, and hopefully, clients and families are a lot more satisfied that they're not waiting around for the payments. Additionally, I would just, from the dashboard indicators, some of the things that are interesting to see is some of the costs of different things. So, I'm always interested when people talk about the costs of, people in supported living. And so I will say right now, on average, our cost per client per month in supported living is $14,386. And I will say a lot of that is tied to the increased individuals. We've got about 55 individuals that are receiving what we originally termed deflection supported living. And I think now folks are landing on enhanced supported living services. And we've got a number of vendors that are doing those services as well. I had an opportunity to take a look at who we are serving in those enhanced supported living services. And part of that is because statewide, the Department of Developmental Services and ARCA, everyone is kind of interested in what's going on with that service. And it's interesting because just looking at the names, I recognized so many of them, but I think 9 or 10 of those individuals had previously been in state developmental centers, and people that have been in locked psychiatric facilities, people that have been in jail, people that have been in prison, people that have been transient, homeless as well. And so, and the number again that I mentioned that were in a locked psychiatric facilities. And a number of these folks are folks where people might feel like they can never be in a setting where they are able to have their name on the lease and have their own, place to live. And the reality is that, it's kind of a housing first concept, but get people into that housing and try to build as much of that supports around them as you possibly can. And so I know we've got a number of service providers that are providing those services already. And this really, to me, with Olmsted and the idea of serving people in the least restrictive environments, like being able to provide opportunities like this for people that have like 8 or 9 prior residential entries in the system. Like I have all the placement history for every individual that is currently using this service. And again, I know it's expensive to do some of these types of services at a monthly rate, but the alternative for so many of these individuals is living in settings that are extremely restrictive and really aren't helping them meet their goals and their desires. So shout out to you supported living providers that are out there doing this for a number of clients. And we're going to continue to talk about what's working at our regional center and certainly encourage other regional centers as well. We've kind of already done that by sharing the blueprint on how to do enhanced supported living with the other 20 regional centers in the state as well. All right. The last thing I wanted to share with folks is, the last 2 things. One, because I always do it, I want to plug the DSP Collaborative website and the upcoming job fairs. June 15th is a job fair in Lodi. Let's see. Adriana, are you seeing the DSP Collaborative website? Awesome. All right. So this is the DSP Collaborative website. Apparently it's working, the fact that we're talking about this, because we have a lot of you that have signed up. I'll just go to Placer County. So Placer County, I'm just going to scroll down, but these are all the ones that have signed up for Placer County. I will tell you, I think that we have far surpassed the counties in the DSP Ohio website that this was based off of. I think we've probably already got more utilization just in the short period of time since this launched. For Sacramento County, even more that are signed up as well. I know last week we showed you UCP's job ad that they have because it has a video embedded. This is not the most complex process in the world. I think, folks like Michelle Ramirez and Eric Champa and others that have kind of gone before you worked on getting a lot of the bugs worked out of it. And I know a number of you providers, I know InAlliance gave feedback, I think, back about it as well. But it's not that hard to upload your information on here, and you can see, where you put it. You can upload files for your logo. You can specialize your listing. So I will be honest with you, like, we have huge hiring challenges that are continuing to be faced by our service providers. And we would love to see more and more of you signed up on here. I know Jennifer Bloom, we talked about doing a push to get more of our EI service providers on here. So just want to encourage folks. We are going to be looking at doing more job fairs as well. We're going to do an EI specific job fair. I'm kind of working out the specifics about that with Lynn Arner. And we'll update folks here in this meeting when that one is going to be coming up as well. Lynn's the one that's working with us to do some expansion in the EI area. So that's the DSP Collaborative. Really want to make sure that you take the opportunity to put your jobs on there. Certainly transportation providers, you're welcome to drop your positions on there. And then just know that we are continuing to do and putting money behind the pushing and advertisement of the website as well, so that we draw more traffic to the website. Let's see, the other thing, and I am going to drop it into the chat and let you spend your entire weekend over Memorial Day reading it at your leisure. And this will be the DDS, I don't want to send a direct message to that person. This is the DDS risk, sorry, scroll up here and close this up. Share my screen real quickly. I just dropped it in the chat, but it's the performance measures. They had another performance measure work group, and I don't know if we had any one of our service providers that were part of this, but this is the person-centered services planning focus group, and there's an overview of that and looking at the measures that are related to it. So I can try to educate myself a little bit more, and would be happy to look at presenting some of this stuff. I know there's still quite a bit of questions, that need to be finalized as it relates to some of these different measures that are in place. Outside of that, let's see here. Can I post the housing slide deck? I don't have it actually saved right now on our website. And so I will get Herman to upload it. And then next week when we meet with you guys, we'll show you where it is saved. We've been building out our housing page on our website, and I'm actually meeting with Herman at 1 o'clock to talk more about changes to our website that he's interested in. So let's check chat real quick. And Helen and Jordan or Michelle, is there anything else?
I think that's it. Happy Memorial Day to folks, right?
Happy Memorial Day to folks. Hopefully folks are willing to come to Jordan's and Helen's CBIM meeting. We definitely want to provide our public vocal support for that service provider. And yeah, we'll wish everyone a happy 3-day weekend and look forward to talking to folks again next week. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Thank you to all our veterans, right? Thank you.
That's right. Thank you very much.